Did you know that there are 5 different forms of execution in the United States? Hanging, electrocution, lethal injection, lethal gas, and firing squad. Many that live deserve death, and some that die deserve life. The rate of violent crimes in the United States is one of the highest in the world, despite the fact that the U.S. has one of the harshest penal systems in the world. To this end, the U.S. criminal justice system has been on the receiving end of numerous criticisms with regard to this effectiveness in controlling crime. The subject of content relates to the form of justice adapted and determining which method is effective between punishment models. Intertwined with this is the issue of the use of the death penalty as a form of punishment for high-profile crimes. Should the criminal justice system adopt a more lenient approach and abolish the use of death penalty for capital offenses, or should it embark on a more restorative justice? Many that live deserve death, and some that die deserve life. There are a few strong and valid reasons why we should allow the death penalty to be a part of our justice system. The death penalty is a justifiable form of punishment because it guarantees public protection. It guarantees that capital offenders will never get their way back to the streets. In addition, the death penalty addresses the potential loopholes associated with the prison system. In this regard, the death penalty guarantees that capital offenders are incapable and will never escape out of prison. In the light of this view, some argue that the death penalty is too harsh, but others argue that the only way that the streets can be free of capital offenders is through the death penalty, which is in turn guarantees public safety and protection. The death penalty should be incorporated as a form of punishment for capital offenders. From its rebuttal power, the death penalty asserts that capital offenders such as rapists, violent robbers, and murderers require sufficient punishment because of the monstrous nature of these capital crimes. In this regard, there are people in courts that maintain that the death penalty matches the gravity of the capital offenses committed. The underlying argument is that capital offenders need to face an execution that was in equal gravity as the crime committed. Since human civilization, humanity has always viewed taking another person's life as only punishable by death. According to some, it is justifiable that capital offenses can be punished by subjecting the offender to the same situation that the offender placed his or her victim under. From the retributive point of view, it is justifiable that the death penalty is the only equal punishment that can be administered to capital offenses such as murder. The death penalty guarantees crime deterrence. The death penalty offers sufficient deterrence of potential capital offenders. The death penalty is unquestionably harsh and its deterrence impact cannot be underestimated. According to some, the death penalty is in line with the goals of the criminal justice system, which is preventing criminal behaviors. Passing on the rational choice theory, the most effective crime deterrence method should place emphasis on stopping individuals from participating in deviant or criminal behavior by influencing their rational decision-making process. From this perspective, the capability of the death penalty can be attributed to the severity of punishment. The death penalty is the harshest punishment and guarantees deterrence, public safety, and retribution. Many that live deserve death, and some that die deserve life. Many people say that the death penalty does not even help because there are enough people being executed. One major way the death penalty helps is that it can relieve a family if someone is murdered and the convicted victim is put to death. A perfect example was Timothy McVeigh when he was put to death in 2001, which was the first execution by the government since 1963. The death penalty is a good form of punishment because the inmates who deserve to be killed should be killed. This is a circular agreement, which is very logical. A circular agreement is when someone reaches a conclusion because it is true but not proven by facts. In other words, the argument chases its own tail. I believe that if the people are going to a circular agreement, then there is no way that people will gain ground and get rid of the death penalty. Many that live deserve death, and some that die deserve life. The death penalty is good and serves a defiant purpose of reducing crime as well as bringing justice to the criminals and the innocent. In order to serve its purpose, it must be adjusted and made more efficient and effective. The justice system has changed dramatically in the past 30 years in order to make sure that the rightly accused is brought to justice. I believe the death penalty should not be abolished as it ensures the safety of the society, brings justice to those who have suffered, and most importantly helps in reducing crime and criminals in our society. Death penalty is important to keep the brightness of justice and public safety shining brightly on our society.